Pam pam.
Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis. Recently lots of videos have been released on my channel that relate to the war. I told you about the situation from the front lines here and there, but never discussed the topic as whole. More was said about the challenges, but little about the opportunities of Ukraine and the answer of the main question, whether Ukraine can win this war. Today I'm gonna answer this question. Let's go. The general front line in Ukraine was shaped in the middle of the April, and since then there is no major change. The widely announced from the Russian side battle for Donbass as a global battle didn't happen. It didn't happen for objective reason. The Russian army simply doesn't have enough resources for that. Instead of World War II battles, we are now witnessing the position battles for small villages, towns with varying success. The only real news lately is the successful counterattack operation of Ukrainian army in the Kharkiv region, plus the signed program of Lend-Lease by Joe Biden and Congress. I think we have been following the turning point of this war recent months, but not in a way we expected. It came not in the form of the single event after which Russia would not recover. It is a long and gradual event, but after passing the 0 point, the favor goes towards Ukraine. This is clearly visible on the map, but before we go to it, let me announce the sponsor of today's video. My friends, the sponsor of today's video is the Atlas VPN, and I'm gonna tell you why you need it. Basically, what VPN does is that it restricts the access for the information you have on the internet to third parties. So you just can eliminate those guys as government restrictions, hackers, advertisers, internet providers, and you'll have the free access to internet without any borders. There are some features I like the Atlas VPN about. The first one is security. They use the military standard grade 256-bit encryption. Most of the intelligence services use the same. They use IP version 6 and 4. Those are very strong protocols. What it gives me that I cannot be tracked and I cannot be found. Hey, probably you know that English is not my native language, and sometimes I got asked how do I learn it. Well, actually I watch TV series. I like to watch the French series because they have lots of dialogues, so good to study English, but I cannot access those series on a Netflix platform from my country. So by changing my virtual location, I can get the access for those series. And also Atlas VPN helped me with access to watch the Downfall movie available on a Netflix. It's about the Boeing 737 MAX crash investigation. And as a pilot, I can confirm that using Atlas VPN you can actually purchase cheaper tickets for your trips, because the system that sells the tickets is the same, but for some of the countries they sell the tickets for the cheaper price. The other great feature is the multiple device support, so I can use the same account on my Android phone, on my iPhone, and on Windows personal computer. I use VPN all of the time on my devices, so I tried the Atlas VPN. Now I would say it has the great feature of defense monitoring, so actually you have the warnings if someone tries to steal your data or get into your device. And the biggest plus is that Atlas VPN is really fast. No matter what connection do you have, it will not be reduced if you switch the VPN on. About the price, I joined the 3 years program for $199 per month. That's the 82% of discount, and I ask you to join the program. All the links I put in the video description here below the video. The offer is time limited, so please my friends, hurry up. And my kind regards to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video.
Pam pam.
We can see the beginning of the war here. In February, it was the rapid advance of the occupying forces. In March, it was slowed down and stopped. April and May were increasingly intensive liberation of Ukrainian territories. And now let's go for a more detailed analysis. Let's start from the south. From the direction where in the first days of war, Russia advanced their forces from Crimea. And actually Russia achieved their best results on the south. There were two developments of the offensive operation, one towards Odessa and other towards Mariupol. The western forepost of the front, Kherson, Kherson was taken in the beginning of the March. The local success of the Russian army in that particular area was due to the fact that they were able to capture both of the bridges across the Dnipro river in the southern Ukraine, the Antonovsky bridge in Kherson and the dam of Kakhovskaya hydroelectric power station. After this, there was no significant advance of Russian army there. A further offensive towards Odessa looks unrealistic. Why? Well, first on the way you need to take the Mykolaiv. They already tried to do this. There was an attempt to storm Mykolaiv. Russian troops landed their helicopters in the city itself and motorized brigades approached the suburbs of the city. But Ukrainian side managed to organize the defense. We dislodged them in a city and drove them away from the Mykolaiv region. And this is despite the fact that terrain favored Russian troops. On the south of Ukraine there are vast lands of that terrain, fields, no forests, so Russian aviation could actively help their troops. But somehow it didn't happen. The second great obstacle on the way to Odessa is the Taus-Bug River, and to get over it is a very tough task for Russian army. And the third obstacle for Russian troops in Odessa is that if you want to take this city successfully, you need to use your navy, marines, landing ships, amphibious and many more. But we all know what happened to their main flagship Moskva that was just destroyed by Ukrainian Neptune rocket. Without the ship they will not have the advantage in their anti-aircraft systems. Plus they lost lots of their landing ships, so now they cannot just use their marine force for Odessa. So the land corridor between Russia and Transnistria, which a command of the Russian army listed among the tasks of the war, now what can I say? It's out of the question. But at the same time, the army of Ukraine simply doesn't have enough forces for counteroffensive operations on the south of Ukraine, because Russia still may use the aviation on those open fields territories. And that's why for a long time we see nothing but the Russian cruise missiles attack on Odessa and Mykolaiv. They simply kill our civilians. At the same time, Kherson city remains the main Russian success on the south. If you can call it success at all, nevertheless the city is occupied. Russians had appointed their occupation administrations and more or less they are keeping those territories under their control. Pam pam. And now let's move to the eastern part of the front lines. The main events develop and continue to develop in Mariupol. The parts of Russian army and the forces of so-called Donetsk Republic were able to circle the city, forming the ring in the beginning of the March. And the siege of the city continued for the long 2 months. Nothing was left from the city. Every building was destroyed. And so far we don't have the information about the civilian casualties. From some of our sources we know that this number could be more than 20,000 people. Russia used every kind of weapon that does exist in their arsenal, excluding probably nuclear bombs. And just recently Ukrainian forces got the order from the general command to leave the Azovstal and save their lives. We expect to have the exchange of the troops, but so far it's hard to predict how the story ends. The capture of Mariupol logically is supposed to release the Russian forces and they can send them northbound. Further, they would probably connect with the forces moving from north-southbound, circling the Donbass region. At least it was their idea in March, but now I think it's not possible. Why? Simply because our troops in Mariupol and Azovstal caused 10% of all Russian losses in Ukraine. Now they don't have resources. But again, Ukrainian forces in the same position. We simply don't have enough resources to launch the counteroffensive operation. Pam pam. Now a few words about central part of the front that runs through Donetsk and Lugansk regions. To realize the advancement scale of self-proclaimed Donetsk Republic, let's zoom into just 2 of the villages, Avdiivka and Marinka. Those are the nearest suburbs of the Donetsk, and Avdiivka is just 17 kilometers in straight line from the Donetsk. And fighting continues there for almost 3 months. However, Kremlin leaders said that the main goal was to take the full Donetsk Oblast, so how long they would fight there. But the main battles now take place in Lugansk region. The battles unfolded for the settlements of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. Russian troops have not been able to take them yet. A little to the south there is Popasna city, and after 2.5 months Russia finally managed to get this city under its control. However, practically nothing left from the city, it is completely destroyed. The armed forces of Ukraine say that they left Popasna for purpose because simply there was nothing left to protect. In fact, it's not entirely true. Basically, Popasna is on a high ground, so you may put artillery there and shell the Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. The most powerful Russian army group is concentrated on an arc between Popasna and Izum. According to the official information that came from the United States intelligence services, Russia concentrated on that arc around 50 battalion tactical groups, that is around 50,000 Russian soldiers. Near to the city of Izum itself, there are 22 tactical battalion groups, that is around 22,000 men. Izum itself was captured in the early April, and it is the most saturated part of the front lines. According to researchers, there is 1 battalion tactical group per each 3 kilometers of the front line. However, there is no significant progress in that area for Russians either. Russian troops were able to advance southbound to Slavansk for about 16 kilometers or 10 miles. And moreover, as a result of the several counterattacks by Ukrainian army, Russian troops on that particular part just went to defense. If we move a little bit to the east, there is quite a famous village nowadays. It's called Belgorod. Russian troops decided to cross the river of Seversky Donetsk, but were ambushed by Ukrainian artillery. Around 73 Russian armored vehicles were destroyed, together with many troops. So far, we don't know the exact number. Recently, the actions of Russian troops show how their appetite's decreasing. At first, they wanted to take all the eastern part of Ukraine under their control, on the line from Kyiv to Dnipro and Zaporizhia. That plan ceased to be relevant after first week of the fighting, that they were not successful taking Kyiv or Zaporizhia. Then they decided to make a shorter circle northbound from Volnovakha and southbound from Izum. After long bloody battles, they were able to take both of the cities. However, further advancement stopped because of the Ukrainian army resistance. As a result, Russian command changed the entire strategic plan. The Russian generals realized that they cannot take Ukraine with available forces they have. Their new strategy was to concentrate the forces on some parts of Ukraine. As a result, Russian troops completely withdrew from Kyiv, Chernihiv, Zhytomyr and Sumy regions. After regrouping and changing the tactics, they announced the second part of the so-called special operation in Ukraine, the battle for Donbass. And now we can clearly see their goal. They attack from the north southbound from Izum Point and from the south northbound from Ugledar and Gulai Pole. After that exertion of all of the forces, they start their advancement but stopped again. Apparently after that, Russian politics wanted to show at least some kind of result of this war. And the Russian command decided to surround the Ukrainian troops in Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. As a part of that plan, they occupied Popasna. As we see now, Russian army has no strength to capture Kramatorsk and Slavansk. Here the offensive failed, so the plan was reduced again. And now let's go to the northern part of the front lines. Let me remind you that in the end of March, Russia announced the withdrawal of their troops from Kyiv and Chernihiv regions. Officially, it was explained as a kind of a goodwill gesture for better progress in negotiations. But in fact, the withdrawal of the troops was necessary in order to concentrate the efforts on achieving at least some kind of success. In early April, Russian troops also left the Sumy region, and now it's Kharkiv's turn. As a result of the series of the counterattacks, Ukrainian armed forces were able to push Russians away from Kharkiv to Russian-Ukrainian border. The withdrawal of the Russian troops from Kharkiv suburbans will decrease the number of shelling of the Kharkiv city itself. Now enemy artillery cannot reach the Kharkiv anymore. The advance of Russian troops in Ukraine is obviously bogged down. Even concentration of the forces in specific points like Popasna, Izum, didn't help to move it forward. Moreover, Ukrainian troops now go on counter-offensive operation, causing Russian troops to defend themselves and in some of the places transfer the military operations even to Russian territory. It looks like this trend will continue in future. It is completely incomprehensible how Kremlin hopes to reach the turning point in this war.
Pam pam.
The Russian group simply not big enough to break Ukrainian resistance, and also they are very demotivated. Russian soldiers do not understand what they are fighting for. In reality, no one does. In addition, experts say about the weak command of the Russian troops, they lost many generals as well, they lost supplies, logistics, and many more. Simply, there was no proper coordination between Air Force, ground troops, Navy, and the high command. The warfield was expected to be dominated by Russian army. All the Western experts claimed that Russia would attack and take the vast part of Ukrainian territory, but now we don't see it. Now what we see are the foreign embassies that returned to Ukraine, to the capital city of Kyiv that was almost occupied by Russia, and they restart the operation. And Ukraine continues to receive the weapons from the Western allies. On May of 9th, then Russia celebrated their victory in the Great Patriotic War. President of United States, Joe Biden, signed a deal for the land lease. Deliveries are coming not only from United States, but from United Kingdom, Germany, France, and many more. I would say time works for us, for Ukrainians. We fight for our land and we have the simple goal to expel the invaders. The main part of the world helps us and we don't have the problems recruiting motivated personnel for our army. The balance that was developed at the front in recent weeks will sooner or later be destroyed, and scales will swing towards Ukraine seriously and strongly. Now about the negotiations. As we know, they halted, they totally stopped, but at some point they will continue. And Ukraine will talk from the position of the strengths. The war has passed into the stage then it goes to exhaustion. One who runs out of resources first will lose. The major resource now is modern and heavy weapons, the deliveries of which is only beginning to arrive in Ukraine. I bet we haven't seen the most interesting part yet. What will Putin do then his troops are driven out away from the country, not only from Kharkiv region, but from all occupied territories? The answer we don't know so far. You know, 3 months ago, even biggest friends of Ukraine couldn't even think about that Ukraine would be able to achieve the military victory, that it will be able to regain the previously occupied territories and defeat the Russian army. Now they talk about it not even as a forecast, but as a fact that has become only a matter of time. That's the story of state, the state of glory, Ukraine. My friends, I hope you enjoyed this kind of videos. And if you do, please press the like, subscribe to my channel. My friends, please don't forget the links to the best VPN out there I put in a video description here below the video. Support my motivation, then YouTube cancels monetization. I wish you the peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.
Pam pam.